At a news conference held during the BRICS summit in Kazan, Russian President Vladimir Putin dismissed allegations that he had been in contact with U.S. presidential candidate Donald Trump. Putin, in his remarks to journalists, stated that no interactions had occurred previously and none were taking place now.
As for contacts with Mr. Trump, this is something that has been constantly discussed for more than 1 year. At one time, we were accused of this, and Trump himself of being somehow connected with Russia. Then, as a result of an investigation in the United States itself, everyone came to the conclusion, including in the Congress as far as I know, that this was complete nonsense, that nothing like this had ever happened. It didn't happen before, and it doesn't happen now.
Putin noted that the trajectory of relations with the U.S. would rest on the openness of American authorities to normalizing ties. He hinted at Russia's willingness to reciprocate if the U.S. showed signs of re-engaging on diplomatic terms.
And how Russian-American relations will be built after the elections. This, first of all, depends on the United States. If the United States is open to building normal relations with Russia, then we will do the same. If they don't want to, then we don't have to. But this choice is up to the future administration.
Commenting on the security implications of Russia's actions in Ukraine, Putin maintained that while there had been no direct attacks on Russian soil, the security landscape was challenging due to persistent dismissals by Western nations of Moscow's calls for cooperation.
You mentioned drone strikes and so on. Yes, that didn't happen, but the situation was much worse. The situation was that in response to our constant and persistent proposals to establish contacts and relations with Western countries, we were constantly shown our place.
Putin responded to questions about North Korean troops potentially present in Russia by pointing to the recently ratified strategic partnership with Pyongyang. He indicated that North Korea's leadership takes the agreements with Moscow seriously and remarked that the implementation of the partnership's provisions would remain a matter of internal concern.
As you know, today our strategic partnership agreement with North Korea was just ratified. There is Article 4, mutual military assistance in case of attack. And we have never doubted that the North Korean leadership takes our agreement seriously. But what and how we will do is our business within the framework of this article. First, we need to conduct appropriate negotiations regarding the implementation of this Article 4 of this agreement. But we are in contact with our North Korean friends and we will see how this process develops.
The Russian leader added that recent satellite images purportedly showing North Korean soldiers were indeed noteworthy, but swiftly slided away to add that the war in Ukraine was the result of the 2014 coup d'etat in Ukraine.
Images of North Korean soldiers in Russia are a serious thing. If there are images, then they reflect something. I want to draw your attention to the fact that it was not Russia's actions that led to the escalation in Ukraine, but the 2014 coup d'etat, supported primarily by the United States.
Putin further accused Ukraine of deploying marine drones in the Black Sea with the support of NATO personnel. He claimed that NATO countries were providing direct assistance, from supplying equipment to training, with active NATO military personnel allegedly aiding Ukrainian forces.
We know what and how is done when launching Ukraine's unmanned marine vehicles in the Black Sea. We know who is present there, from which European NATO countries, and how they carry out this work. The same applies to instructors, military personnel, not mercenaries but military personnel. The same applies to the use of modern high-precision weapons, including missiles such as ATACMS, Storm Shadow, and so on. Ukrainian military personnel cannot do this without space reconnaissance, target designation, and Western-made software, and only with the direct participation of NATO officers.
The Russian president praised his country's troops for their recent operations, mentioning a Ukrainian army unit encircled in the Kursk region, which he stated was under Russian military control and on the brink of defeat.
The Russian army is acting confidently in all directions. This is also well known. No one denies it. It is moving forward in all areas of the combat contact line. It is also actively working in the Kursk direction. Part of the Ukrainian army unit that invaded the Kursk region is blocked, surrounded. This is approximately 2,000 people. Attempts are being made to unblock this group from the outside, to break through from the inside, so far unsuccessfully. The Russian army has begun to eliminate this group.
Shifting his focus to the Middle East, Putin expressed that Russia was not interested in becoming entangled in conflicts there, despite maintaining close dialogue with Iranian leaders.
We are very concerned about what is happening in the region, and no matter what anyone says, Russia is not interested in the conflict getting worse. Strategically, we will not gain anything from this. We will only see additional problems. As for assistance, I believe that yes, we are first of all in contact with the Iranian leadership, of course, in close contact. And we see our role in creating conditions for resolving the situation.
Putin also commented on admission of new members such as Venezuela into the BRICS. He said new members can only be added with the consensus of all other members.
As for the admission of Venezuela or any other state to BRICS, I want to say that this is only possible with consensus. We have a rule that in order to accept any candidate into this organization, into the BRICS association, the consent of all participants of this association is required. Without this, it is impossible to take such a step.
President Vladimir Putin revealed new details about recent mediation efforts by Turkey aimed at restarting negotiations between Russia and Ukraine. He recounted a call from a representative of Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, who presented a fresh proposal for peace talks.
Just recently, once again, the Turkish side, directly the assistant of Mr. Erdogan, called and said that there is a new proposal that they asked to consider for negotiations. I agreed. I said that fine, we agree. The next day, the head of the Kyiv regime said that he is not going to conduct any negotiations with us. Well, we told the Turks, guys, thank you, of course, for your participation, but then you first sort it out with your clients, whether they want it or not. Let them say it directly. Well, as far as I know, there was a proposal voice in their parliament. Only it was not a proposal for peace, but some kind of plan for victory.
As the summit wrapped up, Putin's responses at the press conference offered clarity on Russia's positions, addressing key questions on its international alliances, diplomatic outlook, and military priorities.